We are going to list 10 through 8 to start, give the little grouping there, see our differences. We don't know what we have for the top 10. We send it to our producers, Stone and Madison, and then we're going to see. We're going to see how it goes. So we'll start with 10, 9, 8. Charles, I will start with you because you are the top screen right now, and that's how I want to do it. What were your quarterback rankings for 2025, 10, 9, and 8?
10, 9, and 8. Okay, so 10, I have CJ Stroud, Houston Texans. 9, Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers. And 8, Geno Smith, newly of the Las Vegas Raiders. That was the bottom 3 of my top 10.
I love it. Matt, we'll get to yours. We're going to have our little analysis and discussion on differences after we give all of ours. But Matt, what were yours 10, 9, and 8?
Yeah, I did obviously we're not going to break these down. I did kind of tier mine. So just, and honestly, all the honorable mentions I have here could easily be in the 8 to 10 So just
cover your ass.
That out of there.
Cover
my ass
right
before anybody gets mad at me. Yeah. So my 10 is Jordan Love. Number 9 is Jared Goff. And number 8 is Brock Purdy, who I feel really confident about going into 2025.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. Before we get into that, my 10, 9, and 8, that's perfect to start. My 10 is CJ Stroud as well. Charles, my 9 is Trevor Lawrence. My 8 is Dak Prescott. Jesus, I'm a caricature of myself. But there are a couple that just missed. But just like you just said, Matt, I probably had this tier, maybe one more guy in this tier. And then I had like 5 more guys that I could have maybe included in this grouping as well. But I'm going to start with maybe, the one that stood out to me there was Matt. A little Goff, a little Purdy there. What the rankings here? Just hyper efficiency going with their production. Why do you have Goff and Purdy there?
It is really tough just when you look at it from a production standpoint. Just Goff consistently pops up there. Purdy not as much necessarily this year, but we know that there were some struggles across that offense for a variety of reasons. I'll just start with that actually with Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm really confident that offense actually gets back on track this year. I know they probably could have invested a little bit more along the offensive line. I think nobody would have, batted an eyebrow at that. But I think from a skill position player standpoint, I really like what they've got going on right now. I just finished up charting Ricky Pearsall for reception perception. I thought he was fantastic in the last 4 games last year. I think he is really going to bring a lot to that offense. And I think him and Purdy in particular are going to have a nice connection and chemistry to just get that efficiency back up. I also just think that Purdy is a really good anticipatory thrower, and maybe this is just me seeing things from the wide receiver angle. I love these guys that are the anticipatory throwers who can attack over the middle of the field. I also think he brings you enough from a verticality standpoint. And I was stunned when I consistently looked at just the scramble metrics, just how efficient he is at just keeping the offense moving from a scramble perspective. So that's what ended up pushing him up to number 8 in my rankings, because I'm generally just a Purdy fan. I think he operates that offense well, but I think he has also encouraged Kyle Shanahan. I think this has gone understated. Encouraged Kyle Shanahan to kind of come out of his typical schematic shell a little bit. We saw them go to a lot of, drop back stuff, it kind of eschew the play action and gadgety things, just more true quarterbacking from Purdy last year. Overall, obviously mixed results from the team, but I don't think that was a big part of it. I think there was just a season from hell for them. So I feel pretty good about Purdy being in this group. Goff, definitely, I wasn't as bullish about putting Goff here. He was definitely somebody that I could have put Dak there. I kind of, weighed Baker Mayfield in this spot. Matthew Stafford certainly could have been here. You guys had CJ Stroud. I could have put him in this regard too, but I just love the way Goff operates over the middle of the field. And I think he's kind of gotten to an underrated point as a pure thrower of the football. So I like Goff, and I'm not ashamed to admit it.
No, I've always been. It's so funny. It's like you said a slur.
I don't know.
No, so I've always been I would say a defender of Goff, but someone that's always just I appreciate his game. I appreciate his strengths. I know what he is. But it's just me. This is where the preferences come in. Maybe it's a Billy Bean thing. He plays so much how I play that I'm no, I want more. I want a guy that creates a little more. Sometimes pressure unravels him. And I always like guys that can maybe just do a little bit more ad-libbing. But Purdy and Goff to me are always in that. Those two, because I consider them both better than Tua. But I know those guys kind of get grouped together and get dinged because of the offensive systems and everything. But they operate really well. And those guys, I always have it 14, 15 on these type of rankings, like kind of like just outside. They are that next group for me. It's like the hyper efficient operators. And then sometimes how I view this is like, well, if I'm starting a team, but I think that's what's really fun with 8, 9, 10 is you kind of see everyone's preferences. I thought Charles dropped in Geno here at 8. So I'm optimistic about the Raiders this season too. And Geno's just a baller. I mean, you just look at the stats as well. And that's also what I want to bring up real quick is I was looking up success rate for the last 3 years, just kind of give me, just in case I had to throw a little stat out here. Purdy's on top, number 1. Well, there's only 4 guys with over 50% success rate the last 3 years. Purdy, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jared Goff. So I thought that was pretty significant. A point in your favor, Matt, if you want to argue that way. But Geno, Charles, why is he your number 8?
Just because I thought by the time he had finished his career in Seattle, he was a quarterback that could carry a pretty heavy workload for the offense in terms of dealing with pressure, which was constant for Seattle last year. Like they had some really bad games, whether it's due to offensive line skill or how they were putting together their game plans with Ryan Grubb, who was fired after one season as the offensive coordinator. I thought Geno was a consistent floor raiser in ways that maybe other quarterbacks can't be, where I feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks where if you put them behind Seattle's offensive line last year, they probably crumble and they don't push for playoff contention each year because we see quarterbacks who don't like to get hit, don't like the pressure, they'll fall after a few hits. But Geno, it's kind of like what Geno kind of reminds me of is the Family Guy bit where they have the old lady in the boxing ring and Mike Tyson keeps knocking her out and she keeps getting up. She's like, "Oh, what you gonna hit me with this time?" That's what it kind of feels like with Geno. And the accuracy, the ability, the willingness to attack down the field. I just think he's a really, really good quarterback that raises your floor kind of no matter what you have around you. Now, it's not going to be raising your floor to the point where, oh, if we have Jalen Smith, we can win a Super Bowl. But it's enough where you feel like you can probably compete for the playoffs if you have enough pieces around you.
It's funny. I actually thought there's a Simpsons bit with the exact same bit where Homer becomes a boxer. The Homer, they fall. And it's the same thing. They had like a Mike Tyson ripoff character in that. And the same thing. Why he's a good boxer is he can just take 1,000 punches until the other boxer tires himself out. So I thought that's where you're going with that. But that's kind of how Geno feels too. But that... Stuff. Yeah, similar. Yeah, Simpsons already did it. That's how it always works. Exactly. But the Geno is just I had him as my honorable mention, like my cover my ass list, because I really just everything you said. He's kind of the high wire act quarterback, and I appreciate that. It's hell or high water. If he has the deep ball, the intermediate throw, the tough throw, and that is an available option, he's going to take it. And it's never where I'm like, why'd you do that, Geno? It's like, that's how he plays. And so I always just kind of appreciate that too. So I almost threw him in at 10 because I just appreciate Geno's game, but he just missed my list. But no, I really like that one. But Matt and Charles also had Jordan Love in their initial list, and I might have him soon to come. So I don't want to. But Matt, why'd you throw in Jordan Love in there? Optimism. They finally forgot the receiver room. You're high on Matthew Golden. What do you want to see out of Jordan Love maybe this year that has him in your top 10?
I mean, I just think Jordan Love is a really fun player. He's a daring quarterback. He's a little bit of, I don't want to say maybe like a Diet Coke version of Matthew Stafford at his best. And by the way, I didn't have Stafford in my top 10. I don't know if you guys, we'll find out later. I didn't have him in my top 10 just because I think he's coming off his worst season as an LA Ram, maybe. I mean, 2022 was obviously a disaster, but they share similar DNA in that they're very daring quarterbacks, which I think.
And Geno. They're all probably
and Geno too. I think Jordan Love probably from a decision-making standpoint probably is the worst of this group at all of their respective very bests. But I think he also could tap into a little bit more as just a mobile quarterback too. I think not that he's ever going to be Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen or something like that, but I actually think they could lean into his mobility a little bit more when he is healthier, hopefully here in 2025 and beyond when he was in 2024. So altogether, it just kind of felt like at times the Packers passing game never, it was like a little bit of a star-crossed lovers thing. They just never quite got the timing right, whether it was wide receivers were injured or Jordan Love was injured or offensive line was banged up, especially there towards the end of the season. I am pretty confident just in the system overall, but especially just Love as a player. I think arm talent-wise, he can be up there with any of these top players. If he just smooths out, like from the decision-making standpoint, I definitely could see him jumping up a tier in this list.
Yeah, well, that's why maybe a little higher. I'll hold my thoughts real quick on him because maybe I'm always bullish on Jordan Love, as you guys will see in a sec. But Charles, this is the last kind of little guy that we had shared in this initial little ranking. That's CJ Stroud. Now, nothing tempered you off of him last year. Me either. I had to throw him in. It's one of those where every time I watch him, I'm like, oh yeah, you're sick. Like you're really cool. Yeah. And I think maybe just it's kind of nice right now watching a little bit more NFL film again and seeing the refs in the proper places and offensive line that knows how to protect and a quarterback that can complete an out route and stuff like that. So, but watching Stroud again, I'm like, oh yeah, you're good. Like you're good. So
really good.
Optimism for this year. You think just cleaning up the O-line, that's why you want him in your top 10. Cause that's what led to me putting him in the top 10 is I still think he's a hell of a player that the ecosystem, as we like to say, I think got a little bit of a lift this offseason.
Yeah. I honestly, I feel the same way I do about him after his rookie year.
Yeah.
I think he's just really still a fantastic quarterback. Like you said, the ecosystem deteriorated around him, but he still did just enough where they were able to compete for the playoffs despite having those problems. Like the run game was really, really bad for most of the season. We know the offensive line struggles. The wide receiver room got decimated by injuries, but there's CJ just kind of fighting for his life out there, doing just enough every week. Where they have a chance to stay in these games, like and that was even kind of true. I thought in that playoff game against Kansas City, where he did ultimately make some pretty bad plays at the end of the game to close it out with some big sacks, but still he did enough just to keep like a pretty bad group alive. So now we talked about the offensive line a few times. We'll see how that turns out, but the receiver room additions, I think, are real, and you should have Nico Collins back healthy for a full year, hopefully this season. So there's definitely room for improvement, and I think as long as he's there, like you'll have a chance to have competent offense each week, even as things are falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, you know what really got me excited was last year in the playoffs, he just started scrambling, and he starts creating. And CJ is never going to be a scrambling first quarterback. He wants to sit in the pocket and dice you up, which is why I love him and why I think he's going to be so cool throughout his career. I mean, he's not even 24. He turns 24 in 100 days, 130 days by the time the season, I think, starts. But it's just that, man, you don't see guys pristinely operating out of this. A guy that should have been a redshirt senior last year. And we're looking at some other guys and how they operate that are coming out older. And I think he's such an advanced player. I thought he pressed so much in the second half of the year, but that makes sense because of just what was happening. Every receiver is falling apart. The offensive line is switching. Laramie Tunsil doesn't know how to pick up a blitz. So I kind of was getting like why he was like, I got to do this. Like, this is how I have to play. So it was cool seeing him become a little more creator at the end of last year, almost like, bringing back that Ohio State Georgia game where he kind of everyone's all of a sudden was like, oh, you can do this. And it's like, yeah, good. He can throw that into his element, throw how he can win and play the quarterback position. I have to include in my top 10. I just like him so much. Matt, is he in your list or did he not make it?
Yeah. He was one of my tougher cuts. He was one of my tougher cuts. Again, like my honorable mention group would probably be Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud, Matthew Stafford, and Baker Mayfield in some order, like kind of making up the rest of a top 14, which again, I think is all in the same tier as all those players I talked about. So like, I'm not going to really fight you hard if you want to have this guy here or there. With Stroud, he was the thing I'm excited about in 2025 is that I kind of had this thought about him even early on in his second season. Like, does this guy really need to be like a Shanahan quarterback, and at times I've said like Bobby Slowick basically just ran like the greatest hits of the Shanahan playbook as the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, which worked in year one. It did not work in year two for a variety of reasons, but I'm actually excited to kind of see him out of that incubator. And like, we'll see what Nick Caley brings to the equation here, but yeah, maybe more true drop back stuff, similar to what the Niners just went through with Purdy. I just haven't seen it yet, but I would rather see Stroud honestly in a situation like that even than a guy in Purdy who I ranked as the 8th quarterback here. So I am really excited about him this year. Maybe just a little bit of cowardice not having the proof of concept for me to leave him off the top 10.
I get it. He almost missed it. And I was like, I gotta include him in it. But that's a great point. I'd like to see him almost in a Burrow-ish type offense where it's just let him be the point guard back there, and just because he's so smart and just really is. He's so advanced as a processor. So and he's so accurate and a quick throwing motion, everything. So I would like to see more on his plate. And I like to see. I think he can handle protections. I interviewed him, and I'm like, he knew the stuff after his rookie year. That I was like, okay, you actually more than most Shanahan quarterbacks know this. And so I want to see more on his plate and maybe see that next launch. The only guy I have to throw him in here too was my Trevor Lawrence at 9. I'm the only one that has him in my top 10, as producers have noted. This is more a bullish assessment of 2025. And I should have probably had him below Stroud, if I'm being honest. But I am excited to watch him in the Liam Cohen offense. I'm excited to see the weapons around him. And I think Trevor was playing really well last year when healthy and when everything wasn't and when his head coach wasn't just going into the next press conference to just say, like, make fun of him or do like actually get a nice environment to build up your franchise quarterback, have everyone encourage him and everybody say, like, yeah, this guy's our guy. So this is more of an optimistic slant. This is not based on 2024. This is like, no, I'm still with him. I've always been bullish on Trevor. I just think that now this year, maybe this offense, get out of the Doug Peterson, Mickey Mouse offense, get out of that RPO heavy world. Not that Trevor can't do it, but it's just that maybe getting him to be a real boy and be the drop back quarterback. He's still so young, even though he's on his second contract. So I've always been, again, a guy that's bullish on Trevor. I think finally this year, all right, okay, now I think we got some competency going on. I hope. I really hope. And maybe we'll be in 3 months. I'm making new excuses for him. But no, I'm just always optimistic on Trevor. So any reason I should be blemished? Did he make any honorable mentions for either of you guys? Or am I just so way too high on Trevor Lawrence?
No, I don't think you're too high. I didn't do any honorable mentions because in my older age, I've kind of subscribed to the Tyler, the Creator school of internet bullying. If you don't want to see it, just log off. So I'm going to stand tall on my top 10. But
this is your golf wing.
Yeah,
golf wing rankings.
I'm still pretty high on Trevor. I think there's a real chance that he breaks out this year. And it's just like he's like the high plays and the high games that he has are so damn good. I just don't really see why anyone would just throw away their stock on him. And especially like with the new ecosystem that's going to be coming in. If you can just get the offensive line to play a little bit more consistently and he can stay healthy, I think there's a real chance for a breakout here. And especially now that he has got Travis Hunter and Brian Thompson Jr., which might be like the most athletic 1-2 combo in the entire league.
Yeah, God, even looking at his stats, people are going to roast me for this.
I was going to say part of me wanted to say like halfway through your discussion there, like, well, maybe he can have a season that's like 80% as good as one of Jared Goff's, best years in Detroit. And then we can have
stats are so rough. Like honestly, he said a career high in QBR last year, 59.5. Didn't even break 60 yet. So, I'm telling you, just keep the stock. I'm going to keep accumulating. I'm like smog. I'm just going to accumulate all the stock of Trevor Lawrence stock and sit on it.
No, but honestly, if I have, and look, maybe I'm just an outlier on Baker here, but if I have Baker like in top 14 consideration after a year in Liam Cohen's offense, I think we all got to remember what we thought about Baker Mayfield like 2 to 3 years ago, and that was. I think the stock on that was even lower. He signed for like a $4 million deal in Tampa Bay after what he went through in Cleveland and then Carolina.
He was a waiver cut, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was cut mid-season with the Panthers and then picked up by the Rams. I mean, that's how low that stock was. And he's, again, someone that, like, statistically is one of the most productive quarterbacks over the last 2 seasons. So we could definitely be as much as like, yeah, part of me wanted to make fun of you midway through the Trevor Lawrence thing. I think we all should realize like just where we were with Baker. And he's, again, statistically, you can make the case that he's a top 15 quarterback in the league. I think Trevor could get there by the end of the season.
Yeah, Trevor is my bullish for 2025 take, I would say, in my top 10. Dak a little bit as well, which we'll talk about because I'm assuming he's on your guys' list as well, just based on the notes. We're going to get to number 7 and 6 right now. Charles, who were your quarterbacks that you have ranked 7 and 6?
7 and 6. I have 7 Dak Prescott, and 6 Matthew Stafford for 7 and 6 for me.
Okay. And Matt Harmon, who were your 7 and 6?
7 was Jalen Hurts. 6 was Justin Herbert. So the Eagles fans can be nice to me on this episode.
Jalen Hurts did not make my top 10, and I don't think he made Charles's top 10 either.
No, I didn't think about it.
My 7 and 6, I had Jordan Love at 7, and I had Matthew Stafford at 6. So yeah, oh, God, this is such a once I like put names to paper or digital paper, I was like, yeah, I haven't changed at all. Just every year, it's like some reshuffling the same 12 guys in some way, shape, or form. All right. 7 and 6 here. Jalen Hurts, Matt Harmon. Why do you have the defending Super Bowl champion quarterback in your top 10? The audacity to include him in your top 10.
Unbelievable take by me, the guy. I will say, maybe the ring really does do a lot for the discourse here, both making it more positive and more toxic on certain ends of the internet here. But I just, again, even though this is how we're grouping it, when I ranked these guys out, I actually included Hurts with that tier that we just discussed. So again,
that's fair.
If you stylistically prefer Dak or you stylistically prefer, I'm not nervous about Stafford, but I'm a little bit. I'm not nervous about certain parts of last season. I do think if he's protected and he has good weapons, he should be fine. But if Jalen Hurts is protected and he has good weapons, he is also fine. Like results-wise, it's been very good for him. I also think, there are clear, and we've talked about this a lot over the course of the last year, even as they're winning the damn Super Bowl. We've talked about the deficiencies of Jalen Hurts and maybe where he's not as willing or able to work over the middle of the field as some of these best quarterbacks and drive that deep in breaking route. But the stuff that he's good at, he is really, really good at. I mean, and he has the receivers to cash those checks when he writes them. He has AJ Brown to throw go balls. He has Devontae Smith to throw go balls, but the placement on those throws is really good. And he can access what I would call true heartbreaking dagger, inducing throws to an opposing defense when he's able to attack deep and outside the numbers. So also just what he brings as a rusher, some of it's tush push stuff, but I do think just that helps the offense a ton too. Just keeps things on schedule. There was even some big plays in the playoffs where, of course, he's working on in tandem with a great talent at running back, but he's able to, when those plays are available, he's able to take those as well. So I just think yes, they've catered the offense to be what Jalen Hurts needs it to be over multiple coordinators, and we're getting another coordinator here this year. We'll see how that goes. But the results of that offense are very, very good. So it's hard for me to push him too far outside of the top 10.
Charles, before I get my rebuttal, why did you have Hurts not in your top 10, I should say?
I was looking at this as kind of like if I were to start an offense and I had nothing else, which quarterbacks would I go with? I just don't think he'd be that close to the top 10, just based on how I was approaching it. Because I just feel like he needs so much to get going, and even within this ecosystem, they've had stretches of games where they can't throw the ball, which to me is just it's absurd. You have one of the best offensive line we've seen, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, a really good ecosystem for that. And they still go through stretches where the production is not there, which is kind of for me, that's all I need to know. Because I feel like if I were to give CJ Stroud this infrastructure, they'll probably win the Super Bowl too. If I were to give a lot of quarterbacks this infrastructure, they would win the Super Bowl or get close. And that's not really I'm not trying to take too much away from Jalen Hurts. I just think as a passer, he's pretty limited. And when I put him up against some of the other rushing quarterbacks, it's not always as clean for him, especially when he's running horizontally outside the pocket. So I still view him as a pretty limited quarterback, but it's more I think our friend Stephen Ruiz puts it in a good way, good football player, average quarterback. And that's how I feel about Jalen Hurts, because obviously he's someone that you don't mind having as your quarterback, but in a vacuum, if everything was equal, I don't think he's raising the floor for your offense as much as the other players are.
I think that's Charles put it there is kind of what I agree with too. I always view this as all right, starting from blank, which isn't fair because we're ranking them for 2025, how they could do here, but we're also doing how would I pick them for this year? So that's the thing is I respect what his game is, I would say if I'm dropping on a neutral team or switching quarterbacks and all that, he's lower on that ranking. That is also how he played in the Super Bowl, though. That, of course, is what it's going to be in everyone's memory. The games leading up to that were really rough. They were. Like Charles was saying, it was like throwing the ball was an adventure, and he was really breaking pocket all the time. You could tell he wasn't trusting because they had a couple of line injuries too, or at least banged up guys. The Rams game and the playoffs, you couldn't drop back. Some of that, again, was the offensive line. But again, top quarterback plays, how do you mitigate that offensive line when you do have the blemishes and things? And so that always is burned in my brain about how he plays the bails to the left and throwaways, bails to the left and throwaways. But I also thought, having said all that, in the Super Bowl, it's the classic line that I always like to say, if you make a mistake, make it fast. Or if you make a decision, make it fast. And there he was, 1, 2, 3, balls out. Okay, I'm going to scramble in the second half. I think he had a scramble, goes in between the tackles, as opposed to bailing to the right or bailing to the left. He planted his foot, got north. And I'm not trying to be funny here, like a good running back. But that's what I want to see more of Jalen Hurts. And if he showed that for 9, 12, 14 weeks last year, but instead I'm kind of just feeling the same about him, which I've always been a lower player, a guy on him or evaluator on him. But I still, I think Charles just put it best, or Steven, I should say, really good football player. And he does some things. He's so tough. And I really respect that. Just some quarterback things. He doesn't handle protections. The passing stuff is still kind of he's really good at certain throws, and certain throws you would never ask him to do. That always just kind of leaves me lower on him than maybe some of these other guys that I prop up here. Like Trevor Lawrence, who threw 12 touchdowns last year. So that's maybe why I just kind of kept him off.
Only threw 12 last year?
He was hurt. He was hurt. 11.
Oh, okay.
Hey, but his TD, 7 picks. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly how many sacks he took. Oh, nice, almost 6% sack rate too. That's great. That's exactly what I want in my top 10. But Charles, you had Dak Prescott at 7, who I had at number 8. Why did you have Dak in your top 10?
I mean, to me, it's kind of like a Geno plus, I guess, is how I view Dak. Because I think I've even said on the show before that I kind of felt like Geno had moved into Dak tier, where it's like, okay, if I have you on the field, we will look like we will at least look like a competent offense. And I think that's kind of how I feel about Dak. But I think Dak is a little more consistent on the high end throws. And I think one thing I love about Dak that leaves him open to a lot of the scrutiny that he faces, that he is willing to try some of these more difficult throws on the football field where, yeah, he's not afraid.
He goes, hey, that throw's open, run over the middle. You're gonna get your head shaved off, Jake Ferguson. But yeah, let's go do it again. Go try it again.
Go through a laser beam at your head 25 yards down the field. Please catch it. But I just respect the willingness to try, and I think that those traits are what gives him the ability to keep the Cowboys afloat every year and to get them to the playoffs every year. I know it hasn't been probably as productive as he would like once he gets to the postseason. But the fact that you feel like you can get there every year with this quarterback is with him as your quarterback is good enough to get on this list. And I just think he does so much from a pockets perspective, and lets you do really anything you want in the passing game. It's more just kind of like the consistency on the accuracy down the field maybe is what keeps him from the top of the list for me. But I really do think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and some of the discourse around him gets really tiring to me because I'm just like, man, this guy's really, really good. Just need more people to see it.
Once he gets paid a lot of money.
Yeah, he plays for the Cowboys.
That does help. It's the Woody Harrelson sopping away the tears with money.
Yeah.
So I don't sandwich Matt and go like, hey, why don't you have him in your top 10? And I go and I include him in. So we're not tag teaming him again here. So I've always been a guy that really likes Dak because just he's quarterback teaching tape. Like him, Goff, are probably the top 2 in my head that I would teach a guy. Stafford I wouldn't teach because he does things that aren't human, and there's some of these guys that just have those gifts. Dak has maximized what he's got. And he is a pristine operator, and it's almost an old school quarterback. Like him and Stroud have a lot of the same DNA, and just how they play. They don't want to be an athlete and scramble. They can do it, but that's not how they want. They want to be in the pocket, 1, 2, 3, ball out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ball out. And I just love that. And I think this offense this year, this is making sense to me. The Pickens trade, the offensive line improvements. So that's why I am more kind of bullish on Dak. He is a guy I've always been high on. I have him an 8 here. He's kind of the king of this tier. Matt, you kind of mentioned like 7 through 14 or 8 through 12 here. Dak to me is always the king of that tier. Like that, I would say tier 3, I guess, is how I consider it. Like he's the king of tier 3. And so, yeah, that's where I am at Dak. I've always just been a fan. I know, Matt, you said like he's part of this kind of chunk. So I don't think you're just like, oh, I hate Dak Prescott. It's just more that maybe you prefer the other guy. So totally get why you ended up here.
Yeah, no, I've actually generally been a Dak Prescott defender.
Yeah, I know.
I really like him as a quarterback.
I know, yeah, you've always been complimentary of him. So
yeah, just worth noting. I think he probably didn't play his best football before going down last year with the injury.
It was a weird first month of the season. That was
really weird first month of the season. It's sort of, kind of, but probably not a new offense this year under Brian Schottenheimer, who was obviously there previously. But I do think they can actually do a lot of things to make Dak Prescott's life easier this year. Like I think they're going to run, they're going to use more motion. I think they're going to run a lot more play action than they did last year. But like you just made a great point about this, he's a guy who can handle being like the old school quarterback. I do think that has in some circles gotten him like an additional bump. Like, oh yeah, he does all these things with like the old school quarterback. That's right. He still also makes some really puzzling decisions at times, and will cost them in not I wouldn't say big moments, but he will cost them. But so do all these guys in this group. So that's why I do think like putting him as at best he's like the king of this group, and I do think there's a chance that if Pickens is totally locked in this year, if Tyler Booker, the athleticism doesn't show up, like if those two things hit and somehow they cobble together a really good running game with. Like at this point, whereas we're recording this right now, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue, like two guys who have flamed out with their previous teams, and then a 5th round rookie. Like if they cobble together really
rookie.
Good, yeah, right.
I do like Jaden Blue though. I do like him.
No, I think it's an interesting idea. But he's still a 5th round pick, rookie running back. And again, George Pickens, like the idea of George Pickens is always really good. In practice, it's not always as clean game to game, route to route, series to series. So I do think it's still like teetering on, this could be better than it was last year when he did have that down season. We could also teeter back into this looks a lot like it did to start 2024.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And that's why he's like the Intercontinental champion of quarterbacks. He's not the heavyweight champ, he's the next title down. Like, and he's like the kind of cutoff between you going to the world contender. So I agree with you. It's like that first month is kind of in my head too. But then he was second team all pro 2 years ago. And it's like, that's in my head as well.
He is another year older. He's coming off another injury though. Like those are also variables to kind of consider.
Yeah. I guess my thought process is, last year, like statistically such an outlier. I just don't think it's going to happen again. And that's that.
Yeah. That's fair.
Probably maybe I'm just throwing it away too much. So I'm like, he almost never plays that bad that consistently. So probably won't happen again.
No, I know. And the QB, like even just career QBR, like I know QBR is just one stat. It's just a nice little, but his year by year, 77, 70, 55, 71, 73, 60, 59.9. So 60, 72. And the last year was 45. But like almost every year above 60. I just mentioned Trevor Lawrence has never even cracked 60. That I know he's had a good offenses around him, but there is a reason for that. It's because Dak Prescott gives you a shot to win all these games. So, all right. So the last one, or the one I also had in this little group, Jordan Love, kind of going off what you guys saying. I just love big game hunters. I think last year he just has some moments where this is his DNA. He is going to make some of the stupidest decisions, but then he's going to act like it never happened. And he'll come back on the next series on the first play and rip one of the best throws you'll ever see in your life. And I mean that. And I don't just mean like, oh, very excellent elite. I mean some of the best throws I've ever seen on film. But he also has some of the worst throws I've ever seen on film and worst decision. I love that though. Like, I think he's still so young, still learning this, getting in an environment that's just adding layers. You can see his comfort level. I always thought when his first year full-time starting was he made the rhythm his own. Not everyone's going to have the same drop back and the same timing. It's just, hopefully you get the ball out on time, but you can see his confidence growing where he's adding that extra little bounce. And it was just like, but it was his own timing. And it's just really cool to see a young guy kind of do that. Like you could see it click for him. I thought last year was kind of a roller coaster, but the highs were still so high. And this guy can complete all the throws I want to see. So it's just, I'm still staying bullish on him. I'm not including him in my top 5 like I did on a quarterback draft last year, but that was also future 3-4 years with contracts and everything. But I am still bullish on him for 2025 and really beyond if we were including that. And then the last one in this list that this kind of tier, Charles and I both had Matthew Stafford. I have him at 6, and Charles had him at 6. Reasons for that, Charles, to include the old gunslinger in this?
Basically copy and paste what you just said about Jordan Love.
Right.
And it's
just an older version. That's it.
It's a little bit of an older version.
It really is, though.
Look, like, it's funny because I think when you look at how Matthew Stafford played last year, it probably averages out to like an above average season for him. But the highs are like, oh my God. Like he can still get out there and do the crackhead throws. I can't let go of it. So that's why he's at 6. That's really it.
Yeah, that's it for me. And I'm optimistic about the Rams offense this year. I think it's going to be a really sick offense. So I think this might be his last hurrah.
This is
like a last real good year, and then maybe starts tapering off. But I agree with you. The highs are just so high, and I chase them. Stafford is the ultimate chasing the dragon quarterback, and
yep.
I'm gonna light it up every time.
I'm gonna keep sitting in front of the TV and poking myself,
We're gonna take our first break, and we'll come back with our top 5 QBs for 2025. All right, we are back. We are going to do quarterbacks 5 and 4 here. Matt, I'm going to let you start at number 5 and 4. Producers have a note that number 5 is you're the only one that has this guy in your top 10. So I'm curious to see who it is.
Yeah, I have Jaden Daniels at 5. And then I have,
he just missed. I almost put him at 10. So
yeah. And then I have Joe Burrow at 4. I have Justin Herbert at 6. And I think, again, just from the tier perspective with me, I had Daniels and Herbert in like a tier to those two guys. And then Burrow, I was actually waffled a little bit if he's in this tier, if he's in the tier with I think everybody's going to have the same top 3. But, he's kind of on that little sort of borderline there. But just speaking to Jaden Daniels, I mean, that was an incredible rookie year. Like I like a rookie year you just don't see from a guy for a franchise that was dog for a year, like not like just a complete joke. And I know that we've got obviously new ownership and new decision makers, new head coach. Everything is new in Washington, but still, like to exercise those demons and be a big part of that for Jaden Daniels, I give a premium to that. Just like, again, just the unnatural coolness of him as a player. I will never get over the fact that they kicked that game-winning field goal against Tampa Bay in the playoffs. And, the kicker, I think it was Zane Gonzalez. He's like clearly super nervous in the moment. Everybody's super nervous in the moment. The kick goes through and they shoot the shot of Jaden Daniels on the sideline. It's like he just won a damn game of Scrabble on Tuesday with his buddies, just completely unfazed by everything. And that's how he played. I mean, he was calm in the face of pressure. I think some of the pressure to sack ratio concerns were a little bit borne out at times, but for the most part were anything but like a huge anchor to his rookie season. He's so accurate. I think his placement is great. He sets up guys for yards after catch opportunities. And in addition to that, he can drop absolute, like whatever I said about Jalen Hurts, like dropping deep outside the numbers, go routes, corner routes to a guy like AJ Brown. Jaden Daniels is already better at that. Like he's already that guy, but even better. And I think he is way better working over the middle of the field. I thought I saw a lot of encouraging signs, maybe some I didn't expect to see from him as a rookie when he was working over that middle of the field. Now, just to kind of talk against myself, the more I thought about Washington's offseason from an offense perspective, I'm a little concerned that it's like, I thought it's like, okay, we trade Debo and we trade a 5th round pick to get Debo in here. Like, who cares? We can take on the salary. We can still add to that receiver room. They did not add to that receiver room. And I'm a little bit nervous. Like, all right, now Debo
that outside spot across from Terry. Yeah, I'm a little worried too.
Yeah, like we're going to do the Noah Brown thing again, or is it like Debo is not even an out, like he's not a slot. He's just like his own little movable thing. And like maybe Luke McCaffrey shows us something in year 2, but it feels like a lot more ifs than I was maybe thinking we'd get from Washington. But that's also the problem. Like, again, what makes his rookie season so impressive is that was not a very good roster that he was working with last year, and you were never going to find a way to fill all of the holes and cover all the gaps. I do like that they reinvested in the offensive line, getting Laramie Tunsil, getting Josh Connolly Jr. I think that's going to be a big deal just in terms of keeping him protected and allowing him to do what he does well, which to me is be hyper accurate and threaten all three levels of the field. So it might be bullish to say he's already a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But by the end of this coming season, I think that could be a consensus opinion.
That's why we're doing this. He just missed it. So he was that next couple of guys for me. And it was just one of those where it's like, this is how I was with Stroud last year. As much as I loved Stroud his rookie year, I was just kind of like, I got to see it again. I love him.
Patience was well born out. So,
and I kept him at 10. So who knows how this works? But like Daniels, just for me, it's just like, I don't know. It's not fair to him. But it's just like, I have to see it again. But it was such an impressive year. And the calmness is real. And just that's why they won close games and him just making big plays. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes throwing wise. His mistakes may become, taking a sack. What I thought was so cool is the sacks he took, which was my big concern about him. 1 yard loss, 2 yard loss, 3. It wasn't these 14-yard drive endings. And they went on 4th down so much that it was part of their philosophy. Was that just this hyper efficient attack that he was a big part of. And I thought he was a great athlete. I just thought his skinniness might have hurt him, but oh my God, it was remarkable to see him pulling out of so many tackles, breaking pockets, breaking contain every single week, not just a couple bad opponents. That was really impressive. So I just kept him off. Not that I thought it was an impressive rookie year. I know we'll talk about Herbert in a sec too, but Charles, who were your 5 and 4 before we get into that?
My 5 and 4, I had 5. I had Justin Herbert, and 4. I had Joe Burrow.
I had the exact same number 5 and 4. And Matt, before we took that break, he had Herbert at 6. Kind of the same tier. We're all kind of conservative here. But Charles, explain your 5 and 4.
I thought the Joe Burrow MVP talk was insane last year. Win more games. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just win more games.
It's the Drew Brees argument.
Don't lose to the Patriots in week 1. How about that? Don't lose to one of the worst teams in the league in week 1.
Come on now. We can't be giving 9-8 quarterbacks MVP. That's heretical.
September games count too.
Yes.
I want everyone to know that, right? They count the exact same as the ones in December. The exact same. They each count as one in the win, loss, or tie column.
But he did. But I understood how people were potentially hyping themselves up to say that, because he really did have an incredible year last year with the defense that had no interest in playing football, it seemed like most weeks, where you're getting the shootouts with Lamar Jackson, you're trying to keep up with Justin Herbert on primetime football. So I get where people were coming from, but he really did have just an incredible year. I thought it was his best season, and I thought it was impressive because over the past couple years, he kind of fell into this little. He would have long stretches where he would play the most conservative version of point guard of football, and I was worried that maybe he had lost some of what made him such a great quarterback prior to that. Because what's fun about Burrow is he's a guy. He doesn't have superhero arm strength, but it doesn't stop him from being a playmaker down the field. Obviously, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins helps with that, but he is as much a driver of that offense as they are. So that's why I give him the nod over Herbert here. I thought Herbert had a good year too, but it wasn't quite the kind of some of the supernova stuff that Burrow was doing at times.
It was Herbert's high is still always high, and
right.
I've constantly have ranked Herbert higher than Burrow on these types of things. Just again, we're going to who I'd prefer, and I'm always about traits and all that. Watching Burrow last year, and I agree with you, Charles, that I didn't agree with the MVP discussion. I also thought that we had 2 extremely good candidates anyways, that I was kind of why are we including a third? But watching Burrow, and I thought always this offense would plateau, where it was okay, how much more are you guys adding to it? How much more can you possibly add Joe Burrow with your mind and everything? Turns out more. They're a lot more. And just seeing kind of his advanced feel, throwing guys open. They don't run a ton of concepts, and it's kind of cool. It's very much how Peyton was in the aughts, where they're only running 5, 6, 7 plays. They dress him up a little, but then also he can just just because he knows the coverages and knows what's going on, he can find that open throw. Even if technically a normal human or normal quarterback on day one wouldn't find that throw, he's manipulating things with his eyes. He's doing the ball placement stuff where there are sometimes I'll be like, man, that you got lucky because you have T. Higgins there. And then you watch, oh, that's why he missed to the outside. It's because he's thrown away from a defender. And it's just that it does help when you have two studs at receiver that you have a lot of chemistry with, but he's part of the chemistry. Like there's a reason that they can call double moves on fourth down. And it's not like a double move that just like other teams call a double move and it's a sack and something bad happens. It's usually a touchdown or a first down. Or remember the Giants game where they're kind of giving him some issues and then he starts scrambling and he has huge scrambles on third down. It's just, he always does what's needed to do or what he needs to do to win. It was nice seeing him kind of finally healthy and seeing like he's always had just something, even the beginning of this year, I had like my scorching hot take. I was like, is he okay? Like, is he done? It turned out he was fine. It turned out he was great. And so I just really have started to enjoy his game. I always have, but I thought maybe even just the layers that he's adding, it's just really cool to watch, like kind of quarterback at the top of his powers, I guess is a good way to put it. Same with Herbert. I always love the traits, the highs, always chase those. And it's just really cool to watch him in that offense. I hope he gets more help this year. Because I mean, Charles, you talk about it all the time. It's like first and second down. All right, whatever the coaches can not screw up. All right, go get us Justin on third down. Go get us the first down, buddy. Throw it to Lad. Yeah, good job. Who else you throwing to? Stone Surratt? No. Who else you throwing to there? Okay. Is that Danny
Ricard.
Kelly at tight end? That's such an obscure joke because Will Dissly looks like Danny Kelly from The Ringer. But really, it's just, I'm always going to be with Herbert. I think other than Daniels right there, I mean, you have Herbert at 6, Matt, and you're the low guy on him. We have him at 5. Top 6 quarterback any way you shake it. And I don't think that'll ever change for me. But I think this is the exciting time. We all have the same top 3. And I'm sure everyone can figure out who those top 3 are. It's kind of the guys that are going to be fighting for this MVP every single year. Charles, why don't you go through who's on your podium? 3, 2, and 1.
So I have Bo Nix. No, I'm joking.
Oh, nice.
just make every fan base mad at us. Just every single one.
I have Josh Allen. Wait, am I doing all 3?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. They can both be ranked 2. Honestly, I can't differentiate. And it's one of those things where that's one of the subjects where it's just like, man, I'm not going to argue with you on Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. It's the same thing. You're going to be,
just appreciate him, man.
Right. You're either way. No matter how you slice it, if you have those guys on your team, you feel like you have a chance to win the Super Bowl every single season. I know that neither of them have, but I think one thing that I would really love sports fans to try and differentiate. Hasn't does not mean cannot. Like, if you're going to sit here and tell me that Josh Allen can't win a Super Bowl, that's ridiculous. Like, we've all seen him play. You're going to tell me Lamar Jackson can't win a Super Bowl? That's ridiculous. We've all seen him play. They're 2 of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen in my whole life. And then Mahomes at 1. That's just, he's Michael Jordan still. There was a brief 1 week window, I think, after the Super Bowl this year, where people tried to force some Patrick Mahomes legacy discussion, and it just fizzled out because it's like, come on, we've all seen him play. We've all seen him play. We just saw what he did this year. Right. Like, that offense around him was not very good, and they still made the Super Bowl. Now, what happened when they got there was just utter annihilation, destruction, and famine. But now that they're trying to recharge for another year, as long as he's under center, they're probably going to be a Super Bowl discussion no matter what. So I think those are the top 3 that just about everyone would have right now, unless I guess you're like a really big Joe Burrow guy.
That's kind of how it is. Your top 3, Matt? Assuming some more names, but I'm curious what 3 and 2 are.
I also had Bo Nix at 3. No, I had Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I will say with Mahomes at number 1, it's probably a little closer from 1 to 2. I'm with Charles. Like, put Lamar and Josh Allen in a hat, pick a name. I don't care. Like, you could ask me tomorrow and maybe I'd have Lamar at 2 and Allen at 3. No one cares. Like, it's if you're not a Ravens fan and or a Bills fan and you're like passionately arguing about this discussion, get a life. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I get it. If you wear the team's laundry, like, that's fine. It's part of your lifestyle. You've made that choice. But if you're not, you can make a different choice in how to spend your precious time here on Earth. But again, it's probably a little closer from 1 to 2, maybe than it would normally in a normal year, or like 365 days ago. Probably wouldn't have been as close maybe as it is now. But I still think Mahomes is the entrenched number 1. There's a little part of me that just almost, I keep having to tell myself, like, just let it go in terms of what I'd like the Chiefs offense to look like, because even like working on Xavier Worthy, I gotta like, it's put my brain.
Let me look up Andy
pretzel,
Reid's age real quick and let you know that 67 years old. This ain't changing.
I know, and it's not like, it's not as if I don't trust Reid and these guys to like figure it out with these kind of hyper specific wideouts like a Xavier Worthy, like a Rashee Rice. But there's a part of me that's a little confused as to how that, like, because these guys both need role catering, but in different ways, but in kind of similar ways. And I know that doesn't make sense, and we're not going to sit here and break it down right now because it's not the subject. But this, like, part of me wishes, like, man, what if we just had Mahomes in an offense that had like 3 normal and very clear role receivers? I think actually he would probably be number 1 with like a gap. Not that Lamar or Josh Allen necessarily play with those type of players either, but I mean, it's like Charles said, we've all seen him play. We know what he can do. I do think everybody kind of gets banged off their last performance. I think Herbert definitely gets banged off that when he was 5th in adjusted yards per attempt last year. And obviously people wanted to make a little bit of well, Mahomes has had 2 horrible losses in the Super Bowl. Like Charles said, that talked to
2 losses in the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah. God.
Unbelievable.
Super Bowl. No one. And how about those performances and those wins? how about the first Eagles win when they beat them? Yeah, my 3, 2, and 1 the same. I went Lamar at 3, Josh Allen at 2, Mahomes at 1. But same exact things you said. 3 and 2, whatever. Pick them in the hat. Even though, like, 2 creative players. You're talking about traits and everything. I mean, 2 guys you couldn't, like, if you win Madden, people go, that's a cheat code. But you can't do that. And guess what? They do in real life. What those 2 do as far as arm talent, creation, the intelligence both play with now. Like, both of these guys have added to their, I'm a sucker for this, but the pre-snap ability, protection stuff, diagnosing coverages and everything. Watching Lamar throw under Todd Monken has been like so fun. Like, just so cool to watch that passing game evolve from just play action, Greg Roman shot plays to like actual drop back concepts. And they run the deepest dig routes you'll ever see in your life because Lamar can throw it 30 yards on a line on the hash with pressure coming at him. So it's just these 3 guys. I think they're magical. And then if you want to include Burrow in this tier, like kind of that, I think Mahomes is on his own still, but like what Matt said, it is a closer gap. But like, yeah, I get that, especially after last season. But I think these 2 are just like, yeah, definitively, I feel amazing about them every week and just the process that they go through on top of just the crazy results they get. And I don't care what happened in that Super Bowl with Mahomes. It's like, I remember everything that happened before that and all the mouthwash he provides for that offense and everything he's done before. And I will take that every day. And the toughness he plays with, how many times he's played with like high ankle sprains and stuff. And and people make excuses for other guys, but no one ever goes, oh, Mahomes is playing with this. Also, I got to hear about Quinn Ewers' oblique for the last 3 months. Why don't I hear about Mahomes' high ankle sprain? Those suck. Like it's funny. I hear about other guys' injuries all the time, but not Mahomes'. It's just like because he plays. I don't care what happened to Super Bowl, man. He's the best I've ever seen. And I've seen Peyton in person. I've seen Brady in person. I'm not wavering off of that. The things he does are not fathomable. On top of the stuff, the mental side that he's added to his games, he calls out fronts for the protection. Like, he calls out how many defensive linemen there are. No other quarterback's doing that in the NFL. Okay. And then on top of all the post snap stuff, so he's the dude. I think he's going to be the dude until he retires, unless something crazy comes up. Arch Manning's pretty fun. I don't know if he's Mahomes, but he's pretty fun. I'm not going to say that though.
I would have loved to see what the betting odds would have been like in terms of Quinn Ewers' name coming up at somewhere on our top 10 quarterbacks show.
There's other quarterbacks I thought of in the NFL, but I was like, I don't want to be mean right now. So that That was Quinn Ewers getting thrown out of the bus. That was great, guys. Great job. We are going to have plenty of these ranking shows. Receivers we are doing next. Actually, we're recording that right after this. But to recap, Charles went starting at 10, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, a lot of J's there, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Matt Harmon went Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. And me, Nate Tice, I went CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, won't regret that, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes.